They were singing about the Big Apple. Indeed, Mount View High is like a city these days, a far cry from the demountables of the mid-80s. There are 26 new classrooms, computer rooms, photography rooms, and a packed auditorium today celebrated a spanking new school.
My very best hopes and wishes for the future. It gives me a lot of pleasure and pride to declare Mount View High School officially open.
A new twist to the run-of-the-mill plaque unveiling, Education Minister Chadwick presented with a bottle of the school's very own vino. It's a first for the Hunter, and the whole school shares this vineyard venture. The agriculture students grow the grapes, industrial arts provides the presentation package, and maths whizzes are whipping up computer-generated business records. And the bill for Cessnock's newer school? $12.6 million.
Tamworth Workers Club was the venue for the Shooters Party 9th rally since their establishment a week after the introduction of the 1992 Firearms Act. They say the tightening of restrictions makes life on the land for farmers and professional shooters almost impossible. Last weekend's meeting saw 7 different speakers address the crowded auditorium, expressing their disgust over what they claim is an unfair law.
The legislation does nothing to address the problem of the misuse of firearms in our society. It won't stop another Strathfield. We all know that.
They say the Strathfield massacre, which saw innocent bystanders gunned down, is an excuse to enforce the gun laws, not a reason.
I wasn't at Strathfield. I did nothing at Strathfield. Why on earth am I being punished for it?
Tamworth's own branch was formed at the rally with all members vowing to continue their fight against the government. Every Saturday morning this month, schools have gathered in the Coffs Mall for a chance at winning more than $10,000 worth of musical instruments. Today's final saw a pint-sized Ringo Starr win the heart of the crowd. "13-year-old Joseph Ide from Urara High took out the drummer's title. Bonville Primary School won the overall championship with their rendition of See You Later Alligator, and that was using borrowed instruments.
Next Tuesday marks the beginning of this year's bushfire season. Due to below-average rainfall in recent months and a number of grass fires, the danger period has been brought forward by Taree City Council. More than 15 bushfire brigades took part in competition today at Taree's Tanoni Oval. The firefighting skills of the local brigades were tested. 4 events were held to test proficiency and accuracy with firefighting equipment. Tankers were also inspected. The 8th annual Field Day not only provided firefighters with a warm-up for the coming season, but allowed competitors to indulge in a little fun.
At Inverell this weekend, 70 of the North's best young players are vying for a start in the New South Wales under-12s, 14s and 16 state final to be held at Gosford in November. The top 8 going on to those championships. With players from Coffs Harbour, Lismore, New England and the North West regions, you would expect the best.
The standard's very high as they are qualifying to state. We have some very good juniors here.
But according to Jean, those that qualify may find the going tough in Gosford.
They don't get as good as harder tennis all the year round as the city children, but quite a few of them have got good prospects.
The Hunter Public Health Unit has been able to demonstrate a link between lead levels in soil and the amount absorbed by children. The connection was realised after studying the fallout from lead smelters at Bullaroo and Broken Hill. Director of the Health Unit, Dr John Stevenson, has just returned from delivering the results of the 2 Australian studies to a lead conference in the United States.
The principal reason for the invitation, I think, was to enable our results to be incorporated in the vast database which the Americans have now built up.
The American Environment Protection Agency has included the results of the Australian studies in their International Information Bank. Dr Stevenson believes Australia will ultimately benefit from their analysis. Although the lead problem in the States is more to do with paint and petrol, American authorities are working on ways to reduce children's exposure to lead. The recommendations about how to deal with the problem may be adopted by Australia. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Pavement artists with the Samaritans Foundation greeted the senators with a series of colourful artworks drawing attention to the plight of unemployed young people in the Hunter. The images contained a graphic record of many of the issues about to be confronted by the 8-member Senate Standing Committee on Employment, Education and Training. Addressing the inquiry this afternoon, Samaritans Foundation officer David Cook.
And currently, with about 13,000 young unemployed people within the Hunter, we estimate that about 2,000 of those young people are also facing homelessness as a real issue.
The inquiry focuses on the implications of continuing high unemployment among 15 to 24-year-olds. The senators will report to Parliament in December.
We will report back our findings that have come from submissions from a whole range of groups to the Senate, and we'll make certain recommendations. And the way the Senate inquiries work, the government must then respond to those recommendations within a month.
The senators will continue their tour tomorrow, heading south towards Wagga Wagga and Albury-Wodonga on the Victorian border. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
With ancient history said to be experiencing a revival in interest, the University of New England's Department of Classics and History decided to follow the trend. A number of public lectures at Earl Page College will feature Cambridge lecturer Nicholas Hammond.
He is a world expert in Greek and Macedonian history, and we're very fortunate to have him. He used to be Professor of Classics at Bristol, but retired about 20 years ago, and since then has probably produced more than during his normal academic career.
And Professor Kevin Lee answers the question, what made the Greeks laugh? Dealing with Greek theatre and comedy. The History Department believes it has done well attracting such talent that both students and the broader community of Armidale will enjoy.
We've done very well to attract him, and certainly the people who come along will be very impressed by the performance he gives.
The first lecture begins on the 10th of September at 8 p.m.
A school council is said to be management of a school at grassroots level. Leslie McFall is touring the New England region, spreading the word on the benefits of having a school council and ways to improve existing ones.
We're trying to broaden the horizons, show them just how many things that a school council can do to support the student learning.
With much of the decision-making in school now left up to the principal, teachers and students, Leslie is encouraging teachers and parents to understand the benefits a council can bring to the school as a whole.
Greater communication of ideas, a sharing of experiences, a sharing of knowledge, and the communal understandings translated into something that improves the students' learning.
From Armidale, Leslie will travel to Moree to share her knowledge with teachers and students in that area.
Now at last we can have school councils that are actively promoted and encouraged in New South Wales.
The Valuer General said the 1984 values reflected a slow market for real estate, with values having increased by only about 10% compared with the preceding 3 years. In the last 7 years, however, particularly since 1987, most real estate values have shown a marked increase. Some major factors affecting the Newcastle market since 1984 have included the electrification of the Newcastle rail line, improved freeway road access to Sydney, and the 1989 earthquake, which led to the demolition of many inner-city commercial and residential buildings. There had also been major subdivisions for housing and the extension of shopping centres such as Garden City, Jesmond and Walls End. The total land value is now in excess of $3.18 billion, with 50,637 properties, compared with the 1984 figure of $1.47 billion and 49,322 entries. Some examples of property value increases: Carrington up by 115%, Mayfield rose from $15,500 to $40,000 or 158%. Ellamore Vale and Silver Stream up by 117%, the inner city suburb of Cooks Hill up 138%, superior locations in Merriweather Heights up by 131%, while the biggest increase was in Newcastle itself, a rise of 186%. Business and industrial land also jumped sharply. The Valuer General anticipates there'll be a substantial reduction in the rate in the dollar on next year's council rates. Landowners not satisfied with the new valuations can lodge an objection by October the 16th.
Come 4:45 at Marathon Stadium yesterday, the Red and Blue Army were rewarded for their loyalty as their players stormed into the semi-finals on the back of controversy and a superb second-half performance. And it was Mark Sargent who did the damage. But it wasn't all plain sailing. Even after Osborne's dismissal in the first minute, the Knights struggled.
Put down 8 metres from the line, and they're right in centre field. They've got the option of left or right. Rodwell is on the right. Now Hagan, now Schuster, now O'Davis, and that's a Knights try. And around 30,000 people here, mainly supporting the home side.
Some setbacks from yesterday's game, however. Matthew Rodwell injured his ankle once again in the dying moments of the match, but is confident of taking his place in the semi-final.
In a tackle with about 2 minutes to go, I just twisted it again, so it was fairly painful at the time, but hopefully it'll be right for the weekend.
And Paul Harrigan with a hamstring strain won't hear of missing the game.
Yeah, I think I should be right for the weekend. Plenty of treatment, and it is, I think, only a minor hamstring strain due to the back, so if I treat both of them accordingly, I hope to be there on the weekend.
Back to Marathon Stadium, and as the Knights did their lap of honour, many reflected that the job is only just beginning. But for that moment, next Sunday was a long way away.
Oh, we're buzzing. This is great. We've got equal club championship and 3 grades in the semis. It's fantastic.
What was it like out there?
It was a buzz. Like, we knew we had the job to do, and Canberra didn't hand it to us, but we just dug in there. Nothing spectacular, but we got the points.
Great achievement. Very proud of the boys. It was a great effort. We probably struggled a bit today in the first half, but a great second half performance.
In a fiercely contested match, the Alstonville combination had a leading edge over Farah in the green shirts. In the first half, Alstonville edged ahead with a 2-1 lead, Farah's goal coming from Chris Butler. After the break, Farah came out strongly. From this short corner, 4 minutes into play, Peter Taylor levelled the score. However, the visitors could not be held back, and continued pressure on the Farah defence finally resulted in Alstonville's third goal. Top play from both sides kept the crowd entertained. Farah had some good scoring chances but were denied. James Haling turned the tide and levelled the score at 3-3 with 12 minutes remaining. With the score unchanged at full time, the game went into extra time. Alstonville scored in the first 10 minutes and again in the second to take the game. Goal scorers for the visitors were centre forward Jason Nolan, Tom Marshall, Ben Moss and Chris Sharp. Alstonville's goalie David Charter also had a strong game. Alstonville is now through to the semi-finals to be played in Newcastle next week. They meet Goulburn, while Tamworth's Peel High will clash with Lithgow in the other semi-final.
Eager spectators waited for several hours to witness the arrival of 10 F-16 jet fighters this afternoon. The aircraft, all members of the 35th Tactical Fighter Wing, had just completed a flight in stages from Korea via the Philippines and Darwin. The flight was supported by a giant KC-10 mid-air refuelling aircraft. The F-16s were due at RAF Base Williamtown last weekend, but cyclonic weather in Southeast Asia delayed the operation. They'll take part in a series of exercises with pilots of Australia's 77 Squadron. The two groups have shared flight lines before, first at Port Moresby during the Second World War and again during the occupation of Japan and the Korean War. But this time they'll be competing in the air on strictly professional terms.
One element would be simulating an enemy threat, and so really the training exercises are somewhat posed in that one will have a little bit of an advantage the way the scenarios are set up.
The ground crews and pilots are expected to remain in Australia for about 1 week before returning to meet other commitments in the Asia-Pacific region. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Spurred on by an enthusiastic cheer squad, Oxley put up a great fight throughout the game. The game went into extra time. Bosley Park scored the winning goal and took home the cup. Star Player Award was shared between Oxley's Jason Leslie and Paul Kioba of Brisbane's Mount Maria High School.
Many race buffs say Bathurst has become too high-tech, that it's almost impossible for the public to identify with the cars. Holden team captain Wyn Percy.
The feeling is from the public, from the fans, that they want to see the Ford Holden battle back again. So this V8 class is now being constructed to give you that.
Percy will join perennial favourite Alan Grice behind the wheel of Holden's latest contender. After a shakedown run at the Sandown 500 later this month, the VP Commodore V8 will be debuted at Bathurst. The new regulations mean a cheaper Bathurst campaign.
We won't be blowing engines up or screaming engines at the rate that we have been over the last 2 years. Engines should last half a sprint season maybe.
Percy says this year's race will be an open one. A Holden victory is not impossible, but a podium position is a more reasonable expectation. Either way, it's Percy's final tilt at Bathurst. He's going back to England to resume his life.
I'd love to come back for the endurance race once a year, but reality is back home to family and business.
Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Peavy and Cornett have met on 3 previous occasions, and they have been brilliant but controversial bouts. It was a win to the Sydney sider in the first war. To Peavy's credit, he came back to fulfil a lifetime ambition, win an Australian title after years of campaigning. Now the daddy of them all, the 4th bout at Mount Pritchard Community Centre tomorrow night. The winner will be the Aussie champ and will be on the shortlist for a shot at a world title. Peavy has prepared well under the guidance of Neville Short and is confident of victory. The Butcher Boys are a proud lot, one of the oldest serving members of the Newcastle Rugby League, and at the moment they are in a spot of bother. Because of their financial position, no sponsor for 1993 and with their own leagues club withdrawing funds, it's all hands on deck as a plea for help goes out. Last night the first steps on the road to preservation, with over 70 people attending a Salvage Central meeting. A committee has been formed, another meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday night, and the new committee has some resolutions to be approved.
There was about 10 or 11 recommendations put up, but those, obviously I can't discuss them because they've got to be passed by this new committee. When they put the action plan into vogue, then we'll see the results. I'm pretty certain we'll be there.
For the Falcons, season 1992 has turned from high hopes to despair as their run for the playoffs evaporated in overtime loss to Canberra last Friday night. Their only joy will come from being the Devil's advocate. Tomorrow night they clash with their old enemy, the Illawarra Hawks, who are in a race for a playoff spot. The Hawks are looking good, although they have had their own dramas, with coach Dave Lindstrom being told he won't be required for next year. The Falcons relied heavily on Terry Dozier and Al Green last week and will be after a big improvement from Michael Johnson and Everett Stevens if they are to beat the Hawks, something they did in their first round encounter at the Snake Pit in Wollongong. Newcastle's National Soccer League club, the BHP Breakers, hit the road for the second year tomorrow. They meet Parramatta Melita at Cessnock's Turner Park, and it's the first time a game of this magnitude has been played on the coalfields. The Breakers have gained 2 top players, in Warren Spink, who is out injured at the moment, and Darren Stewart, but it's the bulk of last year's team who will have to carry the workload early. But last year's experience will stand them in good stead.
First year's always an important season. It's
gave Bruce a chance to see the other teams and how we play ourselves and form some kind of style. And this year can sort of continue on and build the style that he wants us to play.
Bobby Newmoff was in and out of the side last year, but had some blinders. He's hell-bent on clinching a permanent spot in the team.
It's every player's aim to play regular first grade, and hopefully I can do that this year and produce the goods.
His partner with a steady hand, Ralph Mayer, was an important part of the Breakers' defence, occasionally coming forward with devastating effect. Mayer is sure the second year of the Breakers is set to be a beauty.
Well, we've got some good signings, and the players that we've got there, I think we'll go for a good season this year. Also, like I said, we've been training hard, and with the local games this year, a lot of interest for the local people to come and watch us play.
Lakes United have played in 5 of the last 7 Tooheys Cup Grand Finals, winning in 85, 86 and 87, with losses to South in 88 and Waratah in 1990. Ironically, it was their current captain coach Steve Walters who scored the match-winning try in 87 against Souths. The Rosellas went so close in 89 and 91, but missed out. It was Souths who did the damage in 89. And how many times have they been reminded of last year's miracle win by the Scorpions? But this year is 1992 and the Rosellas are undefeated. In the minor rounds, West beat Lakes on both occasions by 8 points and 18 points respectively, and then were too good for the Seagulls in the major semi-final. In the line-up, West have experience in Baker, the Price boys and McDonnell, the leading try scorer in Tracy, and the player of the year, Brett Hode, a formidable line-up indeed. Lakes finished the minor rounds in second place and made their way to the grand final with a win over Curry last Friday night in the preliminary final. Also, Lakes have plenty of depth. Scott Carter, Steve Walters and brother Jeff, Greg Hayward and Brian Quinton all have Winfield Cup careers behind them. And as we know, anything can happen on Father's Day in the Tooheys Cup Newcastle Rugby League Grand Final. Both Belmont and Lambton have got behind their teams, with banks, post offices, butcher shops and the streets springing to life to wish their teams well.
Glen Innes is known as one of Australia's top gem and mineral fossicking areas. People from far and wide made the trek to the town at the weekend to show and sell their wares. The Minorama Show has been an annual event in Glen Innes for the last 3 years, with each one getting bigger and better.
I always believed that it'd take 5 years to make a show of this type work, and well, we're into the 3rd year and I think it is going very well.
Features this year included a local sapphire display that surprised many of the locals, as well as beryl crystals from Melbourne and a collection of animal carvings out of emeralds from Newcastle. Organisers are delighted with the turnout in spite of the hard times.
The best part of it is that we seem to be able to attract all the major dealers back each year, and they enjoy coming here. Although I think sales will probably be down this year, naturally with a bit of a recession on.
The players, aged between 6 and 15, played a rue-ball round robin at Glen Innes's Wilson Park. It's a modified version of soccer, with the younger players play on a shortened field, and the rules are changed to eliminate injury. Teams from as far afield as Stanthorpe, Armidale and Grafton enjoyed the day of competition, with both winners and runners-up in each age category receiving trophies. Teams from Grafton and Glen Innes dominated play, Grafton winning the under-7s and 8s and Glen Innes taking out the under-9s and 12s divisions.
Pandemonium breaking out at the final siren. The Knights home on the back of a stunning 80-minute effort that catapulted the team into a clash with St George on Saturday.
Everyone had written us off. Our form was a little bit indifferent over the last few weeks, and we had nothing to lose today. We just wanted our first game in the semis. We just wanted to come away winners, and I think we were more hungrier.
The scoreline of 21-2 was an added bonus for the Knights.
Well, we kept them tryless, and we come down here to win the game. Probably long shots, but we've got out there and done what we wanted to do.
While boasting an awesome forward pack that withstood the Magpie front line and then dominating it, it was the back line, especially wingers Tony Herman and Robbie O'Davis, who did the damage.
Sort of set myself a little goal before the game that I've always played good matches here on the stadium, and I was going to make sure this one wasn't going to be a shocker, So I just got out there with my switch on the game and come up trumps.
And it was the young brigade that drew high praise.
I think they probably carried us to some degree. They're very enthusiastic. I thought Robbie O'Davis, Tony Herman, Brad Godden in particular, outstanding. And if they can maintain that sort of enthusiasm for the next 3 weeks, who knows what's on the cards.
One of the original Knights, Glenn Miller, playing his 100th game and on the field for only a moment, couldn't have dreamt this would happen.
Unbelievable, we're coming of age. I think 5 years has taken us. There's still 6 or 7 of us that are originals, and it pays off today, the feeling.
There was special joy for coach David Waite, who had the last laugh at Warren Ryan's expense.
Personally, that is an enormous thing. I mean, the old bloke got me twice this year, but when it counted, we got him. So I was very, very happy about that, I can tell you.
Realism soon set in, however, with players and the coaching staff realising that in 6 days their next battle begins against the Dragons.
Feel very confident, no matter who we play, that if we play well, we can beat most teams in the Winfield Cup. There's only one we haven't, and we look forward to a rematch with them. But before we can do that, we've got a number of games to achieve what we did today.
But when all were asked what was the biggest factor in their win, it was the red and blue army of supporters.
People in Sydney would get a shock the way Newcastle supported us today, and a shock the way our players responded to that support. It's something that's special. I think they've got a special football team, and they've got special supporters, and that's part and parcel of making this club one of the great rugby league clubs of the future.
The early exchanges had plenty in them, but it was the Tigers who opened their eyes first, a penalty goal to Mark Feeney. He was left to a piece of individual brilliance from James Haggerty to create the first try. His chip kicked perfect, and on the spot was Graham Huddleston, and the Tigers were on a roll. But Musselbrook broke through. Robert French from dummy half, and Aberdeen's lead was cut to 2. The second half belonged to Aberdeen. A Butte ball sent David Douglas away, and he was under the sticks. To put the issue beyond doubt, Scott McGrath stepped off the right, bamboozled the defence, and he also scored under the posts to wrap it up and give Aberdeen the shield yet again.